All right, welcome to Analyze Life. My name is Philip Okadibo. Today we are going to discuss about where the Nigerian government lost it in tapping into the economic liberal order and achieving a significant economic strength. We're also going to look at the issue of the ESN, the Eastern Security Network, and how it actually, is traceable to the failures of the Nigerian government, and what is the way forward on either side. Now, in analyzing this, I'm going to use two theories of international relations. First, realism as a theory, and we're going to look at structural realism specifically, and liberalism. Now, realism as a theory in international relations structure recognizes that all states have structures, a part of the structure of international system. And in that structure, the principal goal of every state is survival. States act basically in their own interests to protect their interests. That's what that theory propounds. There are assumptions under this theory, but I will not go into it now. But the idea is that every state, actually, once you should know that every state seeks to achieve strength, economic and military strength. And achieving economic strength usually translates to military strength. Now, the second theory, which is liberalism, propounds that the international behavior of a state, actually, how it behaves internationally, determines how it acts in international relations, how its politics international relations acts. Now, this behavior of states are founded under certain social configuration and social preferences of a state. I won't go into the details because of time as well, but using these two theories, actually, liberalism also, on another hand, also please note, encourages cooperation amongst nations. Cooperation which can lead to actual aid or intervention amongst nations, like one nation helping each other and states cooperating to help boost the international system and grow and avoid unnecessary conflicts. That is another core of liberalism. So, using these two theories, we're going to look at where did Nigeria lose it. Now, the economic liberal order was instituted by the United States. Actually, no, it wasn't instituted because capitalism existed as far back as the 18th century. That is during the the World War, before the First World War, there was capitalism to an extent, even though it wasn't spread around. Globalism was actually growing then. So, but during the First World War, there was capitalism and there was also security interest. The economic and security interest actually existed at the same time. But actually, security interest was more, which is why we had the war exactly by killing of one Duke Ferdinand, which sparked the whole thing. But at the Second World War, there was actually also economic and security interest. But economic interest was not really as significant as it were. The security interest of states were actually the preferred one, which is why United States formed balancing coalitions with France, United Kingdom, and some other states, and which is why we have the NATO today. And you find out that the United States actually fostered on liberalism. Cooperation of states, the economic liberal order, which is capitalism that states should trade freely, mingle and trade to boost great wealth. But you should know that structural realists believe that in this structure there are states that has upper hands, which is why they benefit more from the system and get more significant economic growth than other states. Now, after the end of World War II and the fall of the Soviet Union after around 1989, 1990, the economic liberal order was much more significant and it grew. Nigeria got its independence in 1960, remember. That was after the Second World War, which started in 1939 and ended in 1945. Now, you found out that after the Nigerian independence, which we adjusted so much from the British, they left us a system which had gone through some certain democratic process, which I will not mention here. But there were too much diversity in the system. Too much. Regionalism that was created in the early government actually didn't work because of queues of military government quest for power. Now, these leaders seek their own personal interest. Now, you should remember, I will be using China as a little, microcosm here as a picture. China tapped into the economic liberal order as far back as 1970s. They started growing things. China was a consuming nation. And as a matter of fact, from around 1815 to 1915 was a century of national humiliation for China. They got under attack from Japanese, United States, and a lot of other people. So when Chinese tapped into the economic liberal order, they started producing. Actually, from my information, they got the first produced the ballpoint pen. That was where it began for them. And they started believing in their productive nature. started investing in productive infrastructure and moved from a consuming economy to a producing economy, which is why most companies, outside the issue of forced technology transfer, shifted their business to China because they got raw materials, they got the manpower, they started producing. Chinese actually moved from around $30 million foreign reserve to $3 trillion foreign reserve and growing. So this is quite a significant transformation. I'm not even talking about the issue of Vietnam, which actually after the Gulf War actually have a significant economic transformation now. But Nigeria, specifically, which is my focus, in 1960s, which we are basically dealing with the issue of government. There was military coup around. Okay, we have to suffer after. Of course, we after that suffered the civil war of 1967 to 1970. Now, around 1975 was when Nigeria experienced the oil boom, which is when oil was actually a very hot product in the global market. Now, what happened? We actually should have tapped into that power of wealth of oil to use to create more productive infrastructures, like China was doing at the time and was growing. And as of 1990s up, the Chinese economy was growing significantly. Around 2002, they were inducted into World Trade Organization. They were boosting, tapping into the liberal order, growing. And remember, I said realism believed that the economic strength of a state eventually sometimes translates to military strength and boosts its military. Chinese today is both to reckon with economically and militarily. And that's why they are throwing their weight around in the Eastern Pacific region. They are challenging Taiwan, they are challenging certain islands, they have clashes with India and etc. This is the boost of economic strength. Now, to contain China is not something to be missed because it has economic significance, as the United States seems threatened because it has a peer competitor of sorts. But Nigeria was actually moving out of the equation. We left the equation when we are still dealing with the military coups and the power-hungry military leaders who were busy siphoning our funds. And that's why we failed. We left that opportunity of using the power of oil wealth. We had agriculture even before we had oil, and it maintained our economy. Where did we lose the agriculture? The oil came, we lost. So that's one point. Now you go to the fact that we left, even we were dealing with military coups, and at a point we missed the whole equation, and that was where we started having inconsistent government. We are so costly leaders. Abacha came in 1993 and looted millions from fraud, from fake contracts and fake applications from advisors, seated our funds in New Jersey's and accounts in United Kingdom and everywhere. So we actually didn't invest. And even till today, when we are transited from military to a democratic government in 1999, our leaders still have that mentality of liberal intervention and foreign aid. Mark my words, that sickness of reliance on Western help, Western aid, Western interest is still the problem we have today. If we have to move beyond this and achieve the potential locked in Nigeria and our sister African states, we must, as a matter of fact, move from being a dependent state on the West to being a manufacturing state and stop being a consuming, reduce our consumption level. What do we need? We need to bring back our brilliant engineers spread around the world working for different governments. We have the resources. Even if we don't have our natural resources in Nigeria, we have the resources in Africa. We could work with our African state under the African Free Continental Trade Agreement that gives us the necessary boost. All we just need is royal leaders with the right creative thinking mentality, which is what we lack. And that is the problem. That's where we left out. We left out puzzling with these things. I wouldn't want to go into the bigger detail because of time. Now that brings me in. How much have Nigeria fared since then? We have a fragile state whereby security duty of government to protect its citizens has actually been jeopardized by kidnapping, by terrorism, by a lot of things. Weakening economy. So government actually is not living up to its potentials, which is why we had the Amotekun issue. That's a regional parliamentary organization created by the Southwestern Governors Forum, created by the Southwest, actually backed by the Governors Forum, to protect their regional security. And now we have the ESN. That brings me to the issue of ESN with Nigerian government. The ESN, Eastern Security Network, of course, formed by the indigenous people of Biafra to protect themselves against the Fulani raiders, was formed in December 12, 2020. Now, these two parliamentary groups, actually came up to protect their security interests since the state actually is not doing enough, and which is a fact. You have a state where leaders are busy siphoning money and, playing cynic politics instead of playing a benevolent politics. we are falling far behind in international politics. And what marks the hallmark of international politics is relevance. What you have to offer, how much capacity. And we don't have the capacity because we lack it. We depend on aid, liberal cooperation, which is actually far away from realism. And actually, every state in ideal sense should have a sense of realism and liberalism. While you are protecting your economic interests realistically, get to use your citizens productively, why you still actually take a look on liberalism. You don't actually depend on aid or depend on thinking that other states out there, United Kingdom, US and all, really care about your interests. They do not. These guys only comes after in statecrafts. Common interest is what holds states. Once that interest is dissipated, everybody goes on his own way. Common interest was what united the United Soviet Union, which disintegrated in 1989. Common interest held the US and its alliances, which actually, when the Cold War period ended, focused on economic interest and the security interest whoever. Everybody went his own way, even though there's a little NATO alliance there, which most of them don't meet onto the security interest. But this is the thing. So ESN actually had clashes with Nigerian military, who believe that they are threatening that is an interest group that is not sanctioned by state. Now the question is, what is Amotekun doing in the southwest, and why hasn't the military gone there? It's because of lack of trust. Because we have a government in Nigeria that is not even doing well for the southeasterners. They are not doing their duties as to security, as to infrastructural development. You marginalize these people. You don't want to give them opportunity to serve. While it is actually a known fact and established that the southeasterners actually and the southwest is what gives Nigeria a name internationally and develops us. We are rich and prospering in everywhere in the world. So why would you give these people a chance to serve? And they want to leave, and you are coming against them with the military force, and you think you're actually doing the right thing. Of course it's not. And as a matter of fact, if they continue doing the part of cynical politics and siphoning fund and marginalized politics, it is going to happen, like I said, another time bomb will blow. And this time Nigeria is not going to survive it because it's weak than ever it has ever been. So the point is, the ESN actually have a right to exist, even though it flouts the constitution, but because of the inadequacies of Nigerian government to protect its citizens, secure life and property, carry out its fundamental duties of security, that justified its existence. And I don't see any reason why they should be pursued like animals. While we have Amotekun East affiliates still operating peacefully in the southwest, sorry. So they could actually do well to protect us. And we have seen certain issues that ensued between them. In January 28, Nigerian army had encounters with them. Actually, even within that year, they had a unilateral ceasefire by Nandika on intelligence that the Nigerian army would withdraw from all. In the other encounters, there were loss of lives, both on civilian side and the Nigerian armed forces. So we're actually looking at a little war here. And the Nigerian state is not asking itself the critical question, are we doing the right thing against these people? What do we need to do to stop this agitation? You don't actually restructure the state to actually get the right thing. The federal system is not working. So we needed a restructured government, which was why we had the 2011 Sovereign National Conference under Jonathan's regime, which wasn't carried out. So this is actually the problem. If they don't want to get it right, it is going to happen. So ESN actually having these encounters is because of failures of the Nigerian state, and that is a fact. And if they want to live for all intent and purposes, I don't see why you should stand against them, honestly. Actually, it's easier dealing with a man that is from your own tribe than dealing with someone who actually doesn't actually have any heritage with you, because it's difficult. So if actually, what I will be suggesting to you here now, so that I'll come long to the short because I don't have much time. If you are actually a Nigerian, know that this problem is not just for Lula, it's an attitudinal problem on the Nigerian citizenry part. They give you money there to vote, and you go and just collect money and vote anybody you want. You think it doesn't have consequences? It does have. You have to use your vote wisely. While we wait for change and anything could happen, it's a matter of fact that if Nigerian government does not address the marginalization of the Southeast and its attitude towards it, stop thinking of it as a terrorist organization, this Biafran threat is going to happen. And as a matter of fact, the ESN wasn't created to realize Biafra. It was created to protect the Southeast from Fulani Raiders. Actually, that is actually literal agenda. So whatever other alternatives are there are implied. And I think at this point in time, it's unnecessary for the Nigerian government to make those implications, because it's not necessary until you have a clear motive that this is going to happen. Then you can move Do the right thing you should. Protect the state. See if there is a need to restructure. Stop marginalizing people. Bring them into the government to work. If Igbo people contribute to the government, there will be a significant change. We need to begin manufacturing. We have steel industries that have been weak and decadent for years. It's not working. We have agriculture that we can boost. We have minerals that we can even source from African states and use to produce things. We have the manpower. What stops us from accessing the information, creating the infrastructures here? We export crude oil outside to work when we have refineries inside the country that could work. So these are the problems. So which is why you see the agitation of ESN. Basically, it's not just maybe not, but it's security in fact. But actually, this is why the Nnamdi Kanu's indigenous people of Biafra seems to be agitated. And I agree with them in that agitation, honestly. And I will seek to solve this problem in the least possible way, in the blood spill possible way, the least way possible to avoid bloodshed. So either way, ladies and gentlemen, I will leave it here today, and I will encourage us. We need to change our attitude towards Nigeria. Everybody, leader and citizens, are right, alike. And the ESN, on its own hand, need to actually focus on the agenda it is created for now. That is the protection of security interests. If there is a need for furthering agenda, that remains to be seen. But actually, there has been a gross lawlessness from the Nigerian government, and it's actually nearly to be regarded as a lawless state. On this note, I would end it, and further sessions will come in to discuss this situation. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful time. Cheers.